Hi, everybody. Good evening. Hi. It is exactly 6 o'clock, but I think we should give folks a minute because this is always like the witching hour, 6 o'clock. I feel like it is a particularly challenging evening time where some people are getting off work, some people's kids are transitioning between things. It's raining in some places, it's sweaty in other places. So we'll give people a minute. I hope everyone is having a lovely day on this budget. I just feel like our whole lives have been budget time. I don't know if you guys are as enmeshed in this whole process as we have been, but the state budget is almost coming to an end in Ohio. So we will be sending out our action alert tomorrow. But it is a beast, this budget. It is one of the worst we have seen in a while. Hi, RJ. Um, it is something. Many thousands of pages. Um, and I just keep thinking if we had one issue one, and I know that is not a helpful thought, but this is what a gerrymandered legislature looks like when they feel like they can do whatever they want. They can put a whole bunch of crazy beeswax in a bill, and that is what they have done. I realize that's not what we're here to talk about. Hi, everybody. It is 6:02. I am Elizabeth Warner. I'm the communications director for the League of Women Voters of Ohio, and we are here to talk about social media. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to see you. We are recording, so don't say anything that you don't want to be depositioned over later. Just kidding, mostly. We are going to share this recording with our fellow leaguers. This is a recording that will only go out to leaguers, but I say that understanding that one never knows if this is going to be, shared with someone who shares it with someone who shares it with someone. So I always have that in my mind. Um, so welcome. I am going to start sharing my screen. So bear with me for just a moment. I always feel like this is an awkward transition here. Can you all start to see my screen here? You could just nod. Yes, okay, thank you, Sophia. Okay, I am going to make this big and start the slideshow feature. You all can still see that? Excellent. Okay, so this is actually the very end. That's not what you're supposed to see. Okay, let's go back here, pretend like you can't see any of that. Okay, so here we are in the beginning. So we are here to talk about social media. How to use social media to amplify civic education, create stronger advocates, and grow your membership. This was supposed to happen during our convention last month, and it didn't. So I'm actually happy for the opportunity to talk about this online because I think that it gives more people the opportunity to see this. Let's see. So, um, before we get to our agenda, I do want to give just a quick definition of what social media is. So, social media is any online platform where people create, share, interact with content and with each other. So, I think the obvious places that people think about when you think about social media are like Facebook and X, but platforms like LinkedIn and Spotify, those are social media too. Even messaging platforms like Discord are social media. And I'll get to the major ones in a bit, but I wanted to share that the definition for what counts as social media has gotten pretty broad. For our purposes tonight, we will focus on the classics. So here's our agenda. So how does social media help us with our mission? Social media basics, the platforms and how they differ, content basics, voice, visuals, and substance, posting basics, guidelines for what and when, community sharing. I want to hear what works for you, what you might be struggling with, and then I wanted to share some resources. And if you all had resources that you wanted to share, I would love to hear what those are too. Um, this is a little bit of what we were just talking about. So what is social media? I kind of think about it as an online bulletin board. So this is, what a town square used to be. This is a place that people are taking their business and sharing it in the street. Um, how does it help our mission? It provides civic education and advocacy tools. It widens league visibility and it shows our power and our expertise. Um, a question that I hear all the time, and I heard it a lot after the November election, is whether social media is still visible or sorry, is still relevant. And I think that's a fair question. Like all media, social media has become fractured. So in the same way that people aren't all sitting around watching Walter Cronkite, people aren't all scrolling on Facebook anymore. They're not all looking on the same platform. And that is a true fact of the moment. And also, social media is awful, right? Like it's super toxic. It's owned by terrible people. It's making us dumber. It's making us meaner. These are all real things. It's making the world probably a more terrible place. But the fact is that it's still in heavy use, and whether we like it or not, many, many eyes are on it. And so it gives us an opportunity to connect with people in the world, and it would be foolish of us to not take opportunities where we can get them. So with that in mind, um, when we talk about it widening league visibility, it it puts us in front of potential members, lawmakers, partners, funders. Um, it delivers civic information. Oh, you know what? I think I skipped an important slide. Okay. Um, it delivers civic information to new and broad audiences. I haven't checked all of our stats for this quarter, but I just did, I pulled some quick numbers for Facebook. In the last 12 months, we've reached about 530,000 people. So, that's not billions of people, but that's a solid number of people, right? We have about 16,000 followers on Facebook, and this is just one platform. And that's just people looking at our content on one page. That's not counting all the shares that we're having, all the people who see our content on, the Licking County page or the Columbus page, and then the people who take that and they see it on another page. So, one of the things about social content, for good or for ill, is that it has exponential reach. So it is seen in multiple places. And so that gives us the ability to reach audiences beyond those who just come to look at us. And that's really powerful. It educates and inspires our own members and supporters. And so those people amplify our content. So, when we have a member or when we have a local league who is sharing that content, that, I think right now people are really desperate for something to do. I think people are really feeling both motivated and a little helpless. And something that is really easy to do is share content that feels important. So whether that's something like an action alert or just information, something like, today I had a post up about, what is a line item veto? What does that actually mean? Because we are about to ask people to call the governor and tell him to line item veto a bunch of stuff. I want people to understand what that means. I don't want people to just blindly call the governor and say, line item veto this thing, and not know what it means. I don't know why my computer does that. Sorry, ignore the thumbs up. Macs are weird. So I think this is an easy tool that we can give people to help them feel engaged. And I think that's really important now more than ever. And this also, it teaches and builds grassroots power. Part of our strength as an organization is that we are grassroots. And so being able to show people that we use our social media to educate and to empower um, and mobilize change helps people feel like they can do it too. We are, and I think you all know this intimately, not a rich organization. You know, we don't have lots and lots of money. What we do have is people, and we have motivated people. And so that is one of our biggest strengths. And to be able to really model that behavior, I think is really powerful. And that's something that we can really model in the world and show other people. And I think that is a really positive thing that we put in the world. So it widens league visibility. It puts us in front of potential new members who can also amplify this, lawmakers who see our power, partners. We have a lot of coalition partners, and that is only growing. Funders, we are not a rich organization, but we would like to be a little richer. And it keeps us relevant. So when we demonstrate that we understand what the issues are, both in the State House and for voters, for people who are the ones that are experiencing the consequences of what policy actions are, that makes us more powerful for both voters and for lawmakers. And all of that matters because that influences whether we are taken seriously in the media, by other organizations, by lawmakers, by other leagues, and by funders. Um, and all of this also shows our league power and our expertise. And so again, this can be leveraged for influence with lawmakers. It increases our appeal to funders, and it attracts and keeps new partners. Um, I'm gonna brag a little. So, in talking with the US League, I have been told a number of times that we are the gold standard across the country, that the way that we manage our social media is what they tell state leagues this is how to do it, because we are one of the most effective in the country. And I'm really proud of that. I think that's something that we can feel really good about. And one of the things that I think is so powerful about that is that's not just something that we at the state league benefit for, and I don't just do it for us. I do that for the local leagues so that everybody can use this and help build their own platforms, so that local leagues can grow their followers, their membership, so that we can all get stronger together. I think it's really important, and we can all just grow at the same time. Okay. So kind of the basics, I hope that I have convinced you why it matters that we are on social media. So then one of the next questions is what platforms are out there now, and what's the difference? Why would you choose one or the other? Um, we're gonna focus on a few. So, the ones that you hear, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok is certainly in the news a lot. Reddit doesn't get the credit it deserves. YouTube, in certain circles gets a lot of credit, but it doesn't occupy the space in the national conversation that it should. Um, Pinterest is not one that most people think about when they're thinking about social media. It's actually huge. Nextdoor, not one that people think about when they're thinking about social media. Also, a really big opportunity for lots. And then Blue Sky, which is kind of the liberal slash progressive version of X, which is growing. And then a million more. For our purposes today, we're going to focus on kind of the big five in my mind. So that's Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and Reddit. I could make an argument, and you might wonder why I didn't do this. I could make an argument that TikTok should have been switched out for Reddit, because definitely the youngs are getting their news from TikTok probably more than anywhere else. Um, the problem in my mind, and this is like everybody should come to their own conclusion with this, The issue with TikTok is that producing content for TikTok is actually hard. Like there's a lot to do. Um, and so it's kind of high maintenance. And you really have to produce a lot of content to be able to grow a real following, and it needs to be consistent. So if that's something that you feel like you can do and you feel like you've got the resources to be able to do that, then absolutely that's something that you should consider, and let's talk about it. Um, at the state level, that's not something that I feel like I can do, and so I'm not putting my resources there. But absolutely, if that's something that you feel like you can do, let's discuss it. The other issue with TikTok is that it could go away at any time. It probably won't. It looks like it's probably legally safe, but there is a ruling that it's supposed to go away. Who knows what's going to happen there? The president seems to be a fan of it again. We'll see, but I am a little hesitant to invest a lot of resources in it when it feels a little tenuous at this point. Um, okay, so the differences between these five platforms are the kind of content that you put out there and the audiences that they attract. Facebook and Instagram have a lot of similarities as far as content goes. Um, they're both pretty visual. Facebook has a little bit more flexibility with content in that you can post events and you can share links. To me, the biggest downside with Instagram, which is personally my favorite of the platforms because I think it's the nicest, like the people, like the tone, the vibe on Instagram is the friendliest. The challenge with Instagram is that it is harder to share links. You can't put links directly in the post. You can share them in stories, which we do all the time, but it's an extra step that people have to take. And a general rule of thumb is that the harder you make something for people to do, the less likely they are to do it. Um, so the other difference between Facebook and Instagram is age. So the youngs have basically abandoned Facebook. I have here 35 and plus for Facebook. I would really say 50 and plus for Facebook. Um, a lot of contemporary brands have abandoned Facebook. We are not abandoning Facebook because those are our people, right? Like not only is that leaguers, but those are voters. Like the older a person is, the more likely they are to vote and to be civically engaged. So we're going to go down with that ship, even though again, the owners of all of these platforms are terrible. Like let's all just acknowledge that the owners of all of these are bad people. The other thing about both Facebook and Instagram is that the users tend to be more female than male. And that's especially true with Instagram. Both Instagram and Facebook are very visual, like I said. Instagram especially. Videos more and more are getting a ton of engagement. Short videos especially. Ideally, it's 30 seconds or under. It's really hard to make a substantive video under 30 seconds that's actually saying something meaningful, especially when you're talking about things like elections, like especially laws and policy. It's tough. And so I would say a minute is probably great. And so especially, being really thoughtful, I always write scripts as much as I can, so that I can plot it out and know what I'm saying. Um, and the other thing that works well for both Facebook and Instagram is what I call explainers. Sometimes they're called carousels, where there are multiple images, and people kind of scroll in one post. And I'll show some examples, or I'll send you some examples of those in the follow-up. Having a lot of text in one block is usually something that our eyes our brains kind of shut down. So being able to space that in a couple of different blocks is not only just easier to absorb. It kind of keeps people interested. Um, for X, formerly Twitter, um, again, it's short text. You can do threads where you have kind of multiple sentences that you go in a row. Um, not a visual medium at all. Um, there's a lot of sharing, so sharing of articles, sharing of other people's hot takes. Um, the benefit to me of being on X is that that's where all the journalists are and that's where the elected officials are. And so you can see kind of what they are thinking about and talking about. And you can get in their mentions politely and thoughtfully and respond to things. That can be especially challenging when you are in the middle of something with them. Last year with issue one, um, I had to really call on my adulting when it was Frank LaRose saying some particularly outrageous things. And I was not always successful, I will tell you the truth. But it's interesting to see them in that space. Um, so I would use it maybe sparingly. Um, but it's an interesting place to be. And then YouTube, I kind of think of for us, YouTube is it's a good place to put recorded webinars. It's a good place for interviews. Something that I encourage our leagues to do is to take the webinars that we've done, recorded forums, and start getting clips. So breaking it down to having, 5-minute clips, 4-minute clips, and putting those on your YouTube, and then also putting those on your Facebook and your Instagram to break it down a little and make it kind of more bite-sized and more accessible to people. I also use our Instagram internally. So like I will put this, a link to this recording on a private link for Facebook, or sorry, for YouTube and share that with people. So it can be helpful in that way too. Um, YouTube is increasingly where lots and lots of people, young people especially, it's where they, are learning a lot. When you read about kind of the radicalization of young men, it's often happening on YouTube. And so I think it's also really important just to be adding content to YouTube that is fact-based. So every time we can do that, we are adding a little bit of good in the world. Um, Reddit is something that people don't talk about a ton. And truthfully, we don't use it as much as we should. But it is extremely actively used. And the people who use it are very well informed. So they can be really strong messengers for us. And we can be people who provide them information, and they can be people who provide us information too. So I think it's worth going and just seeing what people are talking about, starting with looking at the way that it's set up is just by topic. So you can look at, Ohio, you can look at your city, you can look at elections in your community, and just kind of start exploring and seeing how things are talked about. And then just kind of dip a toe in and see, just kind of start. The challenge with Reddit is that it can be tough to get the tone right, which is why I am hesitant to jump in too much. What I do think can be great is the Ask Me Anything feature, because it allows us to be experts. So what I've done in the past is reach out to one of the moderators and say, hey, there's an election coming up. Could I be an expert? And they're always very happy to have us. And then you just get to be an expert for an hour, and people say, they ask whatever is on their mind about a given thing. So that can be a really cool experience for everybody involved. Um, so a little bit, here's kind of the goods and bads. So with Facebook, it is still, extremely widely used. It's great for events. You can also make private groups in Facebook. And I think that those can be really useful for sharing information. For us, I think it's really important to have a public facing page, absolutely. But I think it can be useful for a member organization to have a private page too. I would not share secure information there, but it can be a good way to convey membership information. Both Facebook and Instagram have a scheduling feature, so that can be nice. So, if the person who's doing your social media is going on vacation for a week, you can schedule posts for that week, and you can kind of dip out. Although I do recommend checking to make sure that nobody's saying terrible things, that sort of thing. Um, and I think, for both of these, especially with Instagram, having being able to tell stories in a visual way, it's just an easier way to connect with people um, than a text-based narrative. I think, and even graphics that are text-based, that's an easier way to explain things and have things land with people than text in like an article form. People just intuitively understand it a little bit more. Um, the tough thing about both of these, especially Facebook, is that the algorithms are crazy, and especially Facebook, the algorithm favors paid content. We don't ever pay for complicated reasons. It's tough because we are considered political content, and you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to be able to pay for ads. We've gone back and forth with trying. We've not been successful. We're not philosophically opposed to it. We just haven't made it work yet. We will at some point. We just haven't. But even with that, we still have really, really good engagement. I think it's worth doing, but it just is another layer of challenge. And again, with Facebook, the engagement with younger users is like very, very low. Um, the tough thing about Facebook is that you do have to be creating that content, like you're making graphics constantly, so that is time consuming. Um, the good thing about X, as I said, is you are able to have more direct content with reporters and elected officials. It's good for kind of immediate sharing news and for advocacy. X, though, has gotten worse. And I'm not saying that Elon Musk, well, I guess I am saying it. Elon Musk as an owner has been bad for X, it's just he's made the product less good. It used to be a much more in real time, like you would look at the news feed and like something that happened 5 minutes ago would be at the top of your feed. That's no longer the case. And so it's harder and harder to find out what is going on. So that's more of an issue. It is more algorithm based than it used to be. So, the popular users tend to be at the top. That's not good for, seeing what's actually going on. That undermines the trust of the users, as does the really toxic comment culture. It is a nasty place to be a lot of the time. Oops. And for Reddit, again, the users are extremely well educated. It's like the best of nerd culture kind of in Reddit. People have really thoughtful questions. The information spreads in a really good way. The moderation can be intense, and like I said, the tone can be hard to get right, and if you don't get it right, they can be really unkind. So I would recommend, if you are interested in Reddit, spend a lot of time observing first before you jump in. Um, and I would say, if you're starting new, pick just one to start, and then go to two. Get comfortable having strong, regular content before you go to a new platform. I think a common mistake for people to make is to start a new account with a lot of enthusiasm, and then quickly realize that each platform requires kind of its own tender loving care and maintenance, and they're all a little bit different. Um, So I think there's a lot of account graveyards out there. So, before you like see TikTok and kind of are lured into the shininess of it, make sure that you are at a place with the accounts that you have that you feel like they're solid. You can leave them, it's okay. Um, and then the other thing is don't farm out your accounts. Only reliable leaguers who you trust, who, understand our policy, our brand, our community should have access to your platforms. Um, I am particularly thinking about interns, and I think it's really tempting for leagues who have an intern to think like, oh, young people know social media. Like, first of all, not necessarily. And second of all, if they did, they don't know us necessarily. And we are special snowflakes. We have a very particular tone and lane, and it's not necessarily intuitive or easy to understand. And it's kind of not fair to put a brand new young person in that position. And even if they were the magical unicorn who absolutely understood everything that we did and completely understood all of the nuances of social media, um, you have them for 3 months and then they're leaving. So creating, like, even if they did create this wonderful page for you, then they gotta go. And so then you're in a position where you can't maintain what you've just created. So be really thoughtful about who you give the keys to, because it matters. And I will say, as somebody who's been doing social media for almost 20 years now, nothing enrages me more than having somebody say to me, a grown person, who's your social media girl? Like, I'm an adult professional. There's a social media girl. Like, I'm a person who like has been studying this a long time. This is actually serious business. Um, it's hard, it's complicated, and a lot's at stake. So when whoever is doing your social media, like it's a big job, it's a hard job, and it matters. So praise them and praise yourself if that person is you. And it is a great opportunity for if you do have an intern. I'm not saying like don't include them, but be thoughtful about how you do include them. We recently had an intern with Miami University, and she and I had like a pretty brutal project. Some of you saw our election index, which was that we cataloged every single election that was happening in May, which was hundreds and hundreds of municipalities and elections, which was a pretty tedious thing. And so, kind of, my reward to her was like, okay, let's pick a couple of topics for social media that you want to cover, which she was interested in. I wasn't just like, oh, you're young, I bet you want to do some social media. We had talked about it. And so we had talked about like, what were some of the issues that, on campus, it seemed like some people, like her peers, were confused by or struggling with. And so we narrowed it down to 3 or 4. And then we worked on a script together of what those issues were. And then she did a video, and we posted that. And so that was kind of, we did it together. I signed off on the content. I posted the content. I felt good about it. I knew that it was accurate. She felt good about it because she played a role in it. So it was a really collaborative experience. And I felt like that was a really good model for moving forward with interns too. So that's kind of my little rant there. Okay, moving on. So content basics. So what we sound like, what we look like, all of that deepens the meaning of what we're saying. So our voice is authoritative. And when I say authoritative, I don't mean authoritarian. I mean that we sound like we know what we're talking about, because we do. We're passionate. We love this stuff. We want that to come across in what we're saying. We are honest. we're accessible. A little bit of wonkiness is okay, a little charming even. But we want to make sure that we are explaining things in a way that someone who is new to this can understand. People should not need a law degree to understand how their government works, right? We want to be friendly. We want to be calm. Our world is crazy. We don't need to add to that. We are always nonpartisan and we are never shaming. Not knowing things there's no shame in that. Visuals. So we need to be on brand always. That means if you're doing graphics, we need League colors, we need League font. And I will share our brand book for those of you who don't have it. That has all things League. So that is colors. There's basically a very specific red, very specific blue, specific magenta, purple, mustard, and then black and white, and then logos. Oh, and then fonts. There are three fonts basically. And then logos. So use your logo, our logo, or the US logo, although uh, I would minimize using the US logo. Ideally your logo. Like that's sort of the order of preference is your logo, our logo, US logo. If you're promoting Vote 411, that's also great. If you are sharing content from one of our partners, so like OVRC or the Ohio Voter Rights Coalition or Fair Districts, that logo is great. And when you are sharing content on um, most of the platforms, so Facebook or Instagram, which is the platforms that most of you are going to be using most of the time, um, make sure you include a graphic. If you're sharing, if you're on Facebook and you're sharing an article, that Facebook will populate the picture that comes with the article, so you don't need to make a graphic for that. But if if you just have something to say on Facebook, put a picture there just because otherwise people just won't even look at it. They'll just keep scrolling by. Um, and if you are including a photo, like an actual photo that somebody has taken, make sure that you are all the details in the story or in the picture are telling the story that you want. So make sure that the person standing next to your leaguer doesn't have like a Cuyahoga County Democrats shirt on. Make sure that the table doesn't have like a bunch of McDonald's wrappers on it. Things like that like have things be tidy, don't have any like accidental partisan identifiers in the picture, all of that kind of thing. Or worse, don't have not worse, don't have somebody with like a t-shirt with an obscenity on it, like I almost recently did. Okay, the substance. So the three main buckets of content that your posts are going to fall into are voter services. So empowering voters. So, things like election information, but also things like how, a city council meeting works or what a tax levy is. And then defending democracy. So advocacy issues, action alerts, what's happening in government, that we would have an opinion that are policy around policies that are in the League family of policies. And then league growth and identification. So membership and fundraising. So sharing information about our history, promoting membership opportunities, sharing stats, bragging. I think bragging is always fine. I have included fundraising here. To be honest, I almost never do fundraising on social. Please don't tell Sherry. I there are so many other avenues that we can do fundraising, and people are constantly being bombarded with fundraising. And I feel like it's a wasted opportunity to reach voters with important information. And maybe I am naive, but I feel like if we're good at our jobs with social, that is its own fundraiser, and that people will see that and say, look at how amazing they are. I'm going to give them some money. So I'm saying that like a little tongue in cheek, but I actually think it's true. I think like modeling how good we are is itself fundraising. So maybe I'm naive, but I really do think that's true. And then the other thing that I think our channels are not for is messaging about member-only activities. So things like a membership meeting or conventions. So things that are only for members. If it's open to the public, that's a different thing. So, when we had our convention, we had our Trailblazers event that had, like a keynote speaker, like that was open to the public that we're going to talk about a little bit, although very little because yes, it was open to the public, but it's not going to be interesting to the vast majority of people. Um, and we're a little different because that's a statewide thing, and there's like 15 people in Aurora who are gonna care about that. In Columbus, there's going to be more people in Columbus who are going to care about a thing. But I would say, use that sparingly. Most of what you're going to talk about are going to be either in the advocacy bucket or the voter service bucket with some this is our history. This is, come be members with us so you can also do these amazing things. Um, and as far as like when you're posting, and I would consider the saliency. Um, I would say consider emotion and consider the frequency. So you want to ask what matters now, what's happening in your community right now. So for us right now, budget, this is what people are talking about. Talking about the November election, nobody's really thinking about that right now. So posting about something that people are not, it's not really in their minds, you're not going to get a lot of engagement there. It's probably not a good use of your time. What's going on in your community that people are already sort of like, it's already at the top of their minds that you can add to their information about. And then what are you starting to see that there could be mis or dis or malinformation about? A recent example for us was in the May election, I was starting to see that issue two, people had really wrong ideas about what it was about. And so people on both the left and the right were just wrong. So issue two was about the bond issue that was to renew the constitutional amendment that was going to fund capital improvement programs. People on the left were mad because they thought the money was going to come out of the budget and that we were funding the Browns, and how dare we take money away from schools and put it here. And then people on the right just were mad about taxes generally. So this amendment didn't actually raise taxes. It had nothing to do with any of the monies in the budget. And so sort of in response to that, I created a lot of content that explained what it was really about. And I did that a number of times, and it got a lot of engagement, a lot of conversation, and I hope that it made a little bit of a difference. So kind of paying attention, it's called social listening, hearing what people are talking about, so that you can sort of respond to that and create content around that is something that is really effective and matters. Um, and so, when you're thinking about creating content, what's information that you think could make a difference in how people approach these issues? Um, and then think about how people are feeling. Is this something that's making them mad? Is this something that is making them worried? Are people excited? How can you use that to engage them? How can you use that to inform people and enrich people? And I don't exactly mean exploit them, but I don't exactly mean not to exploit them. So if people are mad about uh, our money going to support the Browns Stadium, um, how do you harness that in a productive way? Teach them about what the budget's about, teach them about what fair school funding is about, um, teach them how to advocate for fair school funding. So don't contribute to chaos. Don't pointlessly make people angry. channel it in a way that that helps people be more effective advocates and helps make people smarter. That's one example. Are people worried about something? You know, there's just so much free floating anxiety, right? Like we're all sort of at 11. Can you create some content that helps people feel like they can do something? Hey, are you feeling crazy? You know what helps me feel better? Volunteering. You want to register some voters? I always feel better after registering some voters. Why don't you come be a member? That sort of thing is you understanding your audience and channeling that into something positive. You see people are excited. Yay. How do you channel that? You know, so these are the kinds of things to think about when you're creating content. And then as far as frequency, you know, all this is a full-time job. So you know, ideally on Facebook and Instagram, it's every day for the news feed. 4 or 5 times a week is fine. You know, every now and then you're going to have a week where you know there's a million other things that you're doing, and you might only post 3 times, and that's fine. Every 5 weeks or 6 weeks or so. 4 or 5 times a week again is fine. Um, Experiment with some video content. The stories feature is easy because you can just share other people's content. So share our content, share, you know, your local board of elections content, share, you know, partners content. Same thing with Instagram. And then X multiple times a day is great, but again, it doesn't have to be original content. Share, you know, just retweet other people's articles. And really, you don't have to even use your brain too much. Just share, you know, local articles about local government. YouTube, don't worry about frequency, just kind of post as it happens. And like I said, with Reddit, take it slow, just kind of just feel your way with that one. Okay, that's all the content I have, but I want to hear from you guys. So I am going to stop sharing and please tell me everything. Okay, tell me what you think. What has been great for you?
Hi, Elizabeth.
I
This is
love
Holly.
Right.
I'm pretty comfortable with Facebook
Mhm.
for our league, but I've struggled with Instagram because of what you mentioned about how it's hard. I try to share things from LWBO, for example, and LWBS, and I haven't gotten the hang of it. But you said something about copying a link and pasting that into a story. Is that right?
Um, yeah, that's Instagram is the hard one to share links with. You can do it in stories. You can repost in Instagram. It's a little trickier, and I will send you the directions afterwards. It's a little clunkier, but it's absolutely doable. Um, they had a repost feature, and then they kind of got rid of it, and they sort of just brought it back. Um, and they have a new feature with their reels, their video one too, that I think is annoying because you have to put like stickers in it, and like I think it's kind of cheesy. But it's okay. I think just sharing the non-reels, just the posts is probably the best way to go because at least you're putting content in front of people. So I'll send you the directions on how to do that when we're finished.
Well, thanks. That would really help.
Yeah, of course.
I think one thing that I have experienced doing with the same problem on Instagram is we created a link tree.
Yeah.
So on Instagram in your bio, you can have one link, and the website we use is Linktree because you can put multiple links on a link tree. So whenever we make a post, we could just say like link in bio and a link tree under whatever heading.
Yeah, we have that
I'll
too.
I'll send a link to our link tree in the chat.
Yeah, I put that in our resources too. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Holly, I might not have understood your question. Are you talking about putting links in your posts, or are you talking about sharing content that other creators have made?
Mainly sharing, but also creating our own content.
Yeah.
Like to know how to do
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all of those things are challenging. Yeah, I think what Sophia's talking about is when you're sharing your own content and you want to tell people to go to some other thing online, there's no easy way to do that. And
Yeah.
so one way that we've kind of figured out is that there's a thing called Linktree that you can just put all the links that you ever want to share in one place. I'm gonna put ours in the chat so you can see what that looks like. And so that way, on the sort of in your bio where it says, just sort of who you are. Yeah, so if you put hers there too, it has just that one thing you can go to. And then the other thing that I often do is when, and I don't do this when I've scheduled a post, but if I've just posted something, I will share that to my stories and then put the link in the stories too. But sometimes I've scheduled it and I'm not able to do that. So it depends. What else have people had success with or challenges with?
Mary, this is not very sophisticated, but it's anecdotal and it's based on observation of our page. One of the things that I found is that people love photos of our local events. Like we
Absolutely.
had this election academy the other night. And for us, we're in a rural area. We had, I think, 30 likes in the last 2 days for this post, which is huge.
Totally.
They're not sophisticated graphics.
Doesn't
They're
matter.
not substantive articles,
Mhm.
but people like to see that we are out doing things.
Yep.
It's very simple, but just I've been trying to kind of watch the page and see what people respond to. And that's one of the things that
Yes.
they respond to is local images.
And a couple things about that. So one, super stylized photos, which were successful and engaging 5, 10 years ago, are not anymore. People see through that now. So actually pretty organic looking photos are very successful now, number one. Number two, part of why photos are so successful is that people see themselves. So people are sharing it and they're like sharing it with their daughter, sharing it with their mom. And so, and they're excited to see themselves. So that's another reason that it is so smart to share pictures because people are excited to see themselves. So, and like you said, it paints this picture of like we're not just like ladies who lunch, right? Like we're out there doing stuff because there is this perception that we're a bunch of white ladies who sit around like drinking tea. Like, I mean, for real. So every time we can show that like we are in the streets is a good thing. Um, we don't show pictures at the state league because it doesn't work for us because we have a state audience, like it just isn't successful. But 100% at the local level, it's a very, very smart strategy. Absolutely.
And I have two quick questions. One clarification. When you said earlier, Elizabeth, don't farm out access to your accounts, you mean for people to post on the accounts as opposed to people to comment on the accounts?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And
Mhm.
then and you've said this more than once, get to know Reddit, but you specifically said moderation is intense. What does that
Well,
mean?
the people who are Reddit people are like ride or die Reddit. And so the moderators are like very into it. And so they take it very seriously as they should. I'm proud of them. I'm happy for them. But they're just like and again, we are all very intense people too, right? So this is not a negative at all. They're just they scrutinize things very heavily. Which is not a bad thing, and it's part of why I think Reddit is one of the best social media platforms because they are probably of all the social media platforms, they are the most invested in fact checking. So it's a good thing. But when you're on the other side of it, I think sometimes it can be uncomfortable. That's all. Yeah, it's not a negative thing. It just, it can be a little intimidating sometimes.
I think the one problem that we've had with Reddit in the past, and this is before my time working with the league, is that we have been denied by the moderator of the page whatever comment or post we wanted to make because we're an organization. And even though we're not selling something, we're not a business, they don't want it to be consumed by people
Right.
selling their products.
Which
So
is fair. Yeah. Yeah. And I've had some people say that they can't share content unless it's coming from um, a vetted media source, and that's like the Columbus Dispatch or the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and not like a league page necessarily. So the way around that is to share the Cleveland page with the information about it. The tough thing there is that so many of those sources are paywalled, and so that can be challenging. Although Cleveland has gotten better about having gift articles, just as a sort of aside. And I've noticed the Dispatch has that more and more too. But I would say when sharing media, generally NPR, Capital Journal, and Signal are like the three that are my go-tos. And Signal is now statewide, and so I'm really happy about that one. And they stole a lot of the Cleveland reporters, so like Andrew Tobias and Jake Zuckerberg. So they're Zuckerman, so they got the good ones. So that's good. What other thoughts, questions?
I think the one platform that we have that I don't think you mentioned is LinkedIn.
I hate thinking of it as a,
I know.
I mentioned it at the top, but I hate thinking of it as social media. It makes me depressed. So when we talked about like don't start a new account without committing to it, that's my graveyard. Yes. What's your experience been with it as a social?
Not we have one. I went to go sign into it the other day and it gave me like a little message at the top that said, apparently whoever created our LinkedIn account made it like a profile page, like first name, Legal and Voters, last name, Metro Columbus, and not like a company page or like a organization page. So LinkedIn has flagged our account as like not being a real person, and we have like so many days to fix it or get our account removed or
Can
whatever.
you just disable it and start over?
Yeah, it doesn't look like you can transfer, so I think we have to disable and start over. But we're like going back and forth because we only have like 20 connections on there anyway. So
Right, not worth it. Yeah, just start
yeah.
over. Yeah. Well, please do connect with us and our like 12 friends or whatever. Because it's pretty sad for us over there. What else? Does everybody here have a Facebook page for their league? Amy, I know that the Kent League has a really strong social game.
Yes, yes, we do. And I had some folks helping me with TikTok and Instagram, but they've had to stop for job reasons. So I'm trying to recruit somebody else to do that. And, yeah, yeah, I get scared when you talk about like LinkedIn and Reddit, and I
Yeah.
don't think,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just so much.
there's a reason it's a full-time job. So like don't like when you see, all the different options, like keep your head down, like just truly like think about one or two and think about who your audience is. Like it would be great if you had like a team of 5 full-time people. Like I would love to have a team of, multiple people, but that's not real life, right? So like concentrate on where the people are that you want to contact. And the other thing is, and this is true generally with communications, is like you know think about who your messengers are. And so the other reason that I don't want us to be on TikTok is that I don't think that the league is necessarily the best messenger on TikTok. right? Like, I don't think that me as a middle-aged white lady is the one who's going to connect with people on TikTok. So I want our message to come from a different messenger on TikTok. So that's why, you know, we partner with other people who are going to be more credible messengers for different populations and different groups. So I think that's a different, like, if that makes anybody feel better for not having like every single, you know, platform out there. Like, no, I don't have a Pinterest account. Like, I don't have, you know, like we don't have all the things. But we have, you know, relationships with many organizations who do have those things. And that's, you know, that's important. So I think that's more effective.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Are there questions that anybody came in tonight with that you have not gotten an answer about? No? Okay.
This was great. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you, Kelly. Um, well, excellent. Okay, I will let you all go home. It's exactly 7:01. Good job, everybody. We did it.
Elizabeth, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I think for me, especially the summary of kind of the 5 top platforms and the pluses and the minuses of each one
Oh, good.
was really helpful.
Good.
Uh,
Thank you.
That, I mean, that's only one piece, but that's one piece I found extremely helpful. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Thank you for that feedback. Okay, well, I will have this recording tonight, and I will send y'all a follow-up probably tomorrow. And it's got resources. And if there's anything else that you think would be helpful, let me know, and I will share that as well. Thank you all very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.